Hello and welcome. I'm Mrreeeee and welcome to the top classes to play an M+ for the War Within. Now, I just want to say first up, of course, that you can play any class and you can play any role and have fun, but this video is for the people that want that edge or that competitive change to really push them to the limit. And they like playing from the meta. So this is kind of like my take with all the people that I talk to, videos I watch, to kind of create a kind of picture for you about what class you may want to play, what classes you want to bring to M+, and maybe this is kind of like, of course, when a video comes out, there's nerfs that are going to kind of change this, but I think this is a pretty solid space right now to make some good decisions. And I think we're going to start first with the Org Evoker. Now, the Org Evoker had recent nerfs, but I just think the changes it makes still makes it so valuable for your team. The way that tanks have been recently nerfed and the healing changes, I think having the buff to your heals and tank just makes it such a valuable asset to your comp. And because of that, it should be in every comp. Doesn't matter. So you should be always hunting for an Org. If you're looking for a player returning to returning to WoW as an M+, or even a raid player, if you play Org, people are going to want to play with you. Now, because of that, that means Devastation. As though Devastation does good damage, and it has in the past overtaken the Org, if you're going to play Evoker, you're going to play Org, so you're going to be on the bench. That also means you're probably not going to run double Org. Now, Preservation Evoker is okay in its healing at the moment. It has a decent throughput. Some of the changes weren't too crazy on the class with the hero talents, but I still think it's playable. And we'll get to the healers, but I wouldn't be playing, if you've got an Org, you're probably not going to run a Prez. So I kind of put this in the play another spec situation here. Let's go to the tank. And again, maybe I won't go to the tank, but the tank here is the Vengeance Demon Hunter. Because I'm playing Org, I'm probably going to play casters, and I need that buff for the magic damage. I'm going to use that magic buff, and it's going to bring me back in. Now, the Vengeance Demon Hunter hasn't really been my top pick as a tank. I think Druid sits above it, but because of Org, I'm going to probably play past casters. I want that magic damage. I want to buff my Org. I want to buff my other two classes. So, Vengeance Demon Hunter makes it into the God comp. Well, this is looking pretty familiar. I guess this next is what range caster we're going to pick, and that's going to be our Warlock. And Destruction Warlock is up there. Now, Destruction Warlock did get recently nerfed, but I think it still synergizes well with a comp. So I think here we look at, again, Aflock and Demonology. I think at the moment that Aflock is kind of performing, and you probably can be contested between Aflock and Destro. The only difference here may be, I think you still can line up big cooldowns with Destro. So if you're in a team comp and you're running with a players of 5, you're probably going to play Destro more. If you're pugging, you might play more AF because you'll get more of a fluent, because the fluent of pools. If you don't know what your tank's doing, they're not tracking your cooldowns, you're going to be dumping Infernals at weird points. Well, if you're playing AF, it's more of a consistent play style. So at least you know it's Warlock, and you're going to be playing either Demo, Affliction, or Destruction. I think Demo is definitely in the lower for the damage right now. And I guess the reason you're looking at Warlock here, not only is it big damage, they're alwa+, known for the survivability. They have so much mitigation, so much self-sustain. They're such a strong range DPS for M+. You're going to do high damage, and you're going to survive the way through it. Now, of course, I guess number 3 is going to be the Arcane Mage. Here again, let's buff the intellect. Let's get an intellect buff. Let's do crazy damage. I guess you're going to have Frost and Fire. Play the other spec. Now, I think Fire is kind of contesting Arcane at the moment, but I think Arcane has such good mobility. The survivability is there. You've got the intellect buff now for my Org, for my Destro. We're going to start blasting. And I think this is the God comp that is forming. And then finally, what heal are we going? You said it. The Resto Druid. Why? Because we want that verse buff. So that versatility buff now synergizes our comp, and this is probably going to be the top 5 you will see coming out in the first week of the War Within, unless there are some small changes. I guess like your DPS may change here, but I think this is, unless something drastically changes with some of the tanks, like I know that Prop Paladin kind of made it last season because it does have a lot of synergy with its bopping and sack. That utility can be shown. If rogues start to come through because of the Shroud and the comp, you might be moving away from that Arcane Intellect build. But I really think because of Org, because of that Arcane Intellect, you're looking at strong survivability. This is the God comp. And then we kind of work down from there, okay? I think Rogue is Shroud good enough. Rogue for me is like, there's like one guy that I've known over the many years called Dendy, who's an absolute freak at Rogue. There's probably another guy Cubes as well, but it was way back. But recently, Dendy, insane at Rogue. And when he comes into a key, it's like control is everything to them. All right. And finding that difficulty of a player is so important, because I think if you're coming into the game as a new player, or you're not really confident in Rogue, there's a lot of expectations for you to control. But I think that it also depends. Like, I don't think the damage is there, and you have that expectations. And if you're not performing to do the control, then people aren't going to take you as much. All right. I think Rogue is a bit finicky. Yes, I think it is doing damage in some spaces, but they're not really top tier. Okay. I think Rogue really benefits when it benefits from the control and Shroud. So unless looking at some of the dungeons coming up, I don't think you have much of a variation of counts. I think Rogue really benefits from the Shroud. So looking at percentages, looking at skipping routes, if Shroud starts to become more valuable and we see a lot of runs where they time and skip an M+, then the Rogue's going to get its spot. So I kind of put it in the middle there, because it's really dependent on the M+. If it does medium damage but then skips a whole lot of trash, like, instead of using Invis Pot, well, Rogue's there. So I think, is Shroud good? I've put it in the middle tier then. All right. Well, I have a Vengeance Demon Hunter, and I think the top two tanks, Silver is cool. Good tanks after that. If I couldn't get my God comp and I'm not running casters, I'm going to turn to the Bear Druid, and I'm going to turn to the Blood DK. These, I think, are the best tanks at the moment. They're doing high damage and have good survivability. So these are probably your next two tanks you're going to probably take. After that, you're going to go down to your next tanks, which would be a Prot Paladin, your Brewmaster, and your Prot Warrior. So again, you're moving down the tank list. I've got Bench as the top. We're not really running an Orc for whatever goddamn reason. I'm not really going for the Magic Caster. I've got a Bear Druid and a Blood. Okay, I don't have them. I guess we'll go for third. They just don't have the same damage survivability as the other three, and we work our way down. So I think be happy if you've got an invite as a Prot, a Brew, and a Prot Warrior. Again, Prot Paladin could be back in if it gets some buffs, but I think the consecration on the ground, consecration on the ground, and that movement makes it very hard through mitigation. It's still a bit squishy. Brewmaster, of course, the magic damage take, and Warrior does doing high damage, but again, that magic slow magic dot is quite damaging. So again, let's really just leave it with the tank we discussed in that space. Where are we up next? I guess here we can go through our healers. If it's not a Resto Druid, where are you going to go? I think Resto Shaman is doing really well, and Holy Paladin. I think Holy Paladin is probably your next choice. I've told it as a top class. I think it has so much utility in healing. I think the WOG healing in M+ is so valuable. And I think Shaman is your secret tech with its utility and simple heals. After that, again, you're going probably your Holy Priest is coming in next, or your Disc Priest, or your Mist Weaver are your next healers. So again, happy to get an invite there. You could probably split them even further. I think Disc Priest is really in a bad spot right now. But Holy and Mist are probably down there as well. So you're probably going to prioritize the first three and then work yourself down from there. Now, again, if I have, everything to do with M+ is just as they are raid. Okay, people, even if you want to commit it, raid buffs matter. Okay, raid buffs matter. Everyone's going to think the same thing. And we talked about earlier, play what you want, but I'm going to go, okay, do I have a Lust in my group? Do I have a Battle Res? Do I have the versatility buff? So if I have a Druid, I'm probably going to take up a Holy Paladin. Okay, if I have a Blood DK, I'm probably going to pick up a Resto Druid. I'm going to flex with that. If I don't have Lust, maybe I'll take a Shaman who has Lust for its heal. So I want that Lust in my group, and I'll kind of flex between those three. But a lot of people want their comp to have a Lust, a Battle Res, and then some sort of raid buff, intellect buff, fortitude buff, whatever it may be. On to the next. This one gets a bit crazy here. Floor POV. I think Arms Warrior. I think, what have I got here? Arms Warrior. I think Windwalker Monk. I think Enhancement Shaman. Floor POV. I don't think they've done enough changes. I feel like every time you bring one of these types of players, they're on the floor. They just don't have the survivability as other classes do. I think melee that are doing really well at the moment, kind of Rep Paladin. I think Fury Warrior. I think Survival Hunter, Frost DK, Unholy DK. are going to do good damage right now. I think Frost is doing in Survivor and Ret are doing Survivor a bit like high damage in M Plus at the moment. That could change, of course. I think all of these have pretty good survivability. We've seen a stage where Survival Hunter has popped off in earlier seasons of Shadowlands. We saw that in maybe season 2 of Shadowlands. I think it could pop off again. There's some recent changes. I think Red Paladin just is a very simple class at Blast. Fury has a good way to sustain and damage. And of course, both your DKs are just playing real well at the moment. What do we got next? MM Hunter and BM Hunter, I think, play the other spec. If you're going to play Hunter, play Survivability. I mean, if you like playing for fun, don't watch this video. But I think you should be playing Survival at the moment. BM has some good movement and changes into Raid format, but of course it's M+. Vengeance, Demon Hunter. Sorry, is this Vengeance? Not Vengeance. What is it? Oh my god. The other Demon Hunter. I can't even think about it. Is it floor POV? Is it one melee only? I think they have good survivability. You could probably put it into your melee situation. Feral Druid and Boomy. You know, I think Boomy is doing okay at the moment. It has its performance, but I guess you're playing Resto or Druid. Like, I think both the other Druid specs are probably going to play before a Boomy and a Feral get to show. You probably can start to see Boomy and Feral get invited if you didn't have a oh my god, if you didn't have a Resto Druid and you didn't have a Guardian Druid, you might see the Feral and the Boomkin, but I just think the other classes, the other specs are just way more stronger in its class, so you're probably going to see them more. Elemental Shaman, I mean, if you don't have everybody else, and same with Shadow Priest, have been nerfed for the Bat. The Bat came and they nerfed them. So really, God Comp. There it is at the top. I don't have the God Comp. What am I going to take next? Probably these. These are my 4 tanks and healers. When it comes to DPS, it starts to flex out a bit. I'm probably going to pick one of these melee. They're doing really good damage at the moment. Or they're just, I want the other buff of the magic damage. Is the maps and is the new dungeons, do they need a Shroud? Yes or no? And then, then we start to hit those third tiers. I think an Elemental is doing big damage here. But I mean, am I going to take a Warlock and I'm going to take a Preservoker? I guess I'll take an Elemental Shaman. That's kind of next when I'm looking at my ranges. If I don't have a Guardian, am I going to take a Boomy? Shadow Priest, I think, is just too nerfed at the moment. And then, of course, play the other specs. I think if you're going to play anything, play the other specs. They're performing better. So this is my tier list of the top comp and the top classes to play for War Within in Mythic Plus. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, hit the comments, and I will see you for the next one. Peace out.